Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. I am so excited for this one. We're going to be looking at systems versus goals.
Yeah, I think this is a topic that really resonates with a lot of people, especially this time of year. We're all about setting those New Year's resolutions, but how often do those actually stick?
Exactly. Like
Mm.
you're all gung-ho in January, maybe even February, and then by March, it's like, PFT. What
Yeah.
was I even thinking?
Right. It's almost like we're setting ourselves up for failure by focusing so much on that end goal, that finish line. Instead, what if we shifted our perspective and focused on the journey itself, the systems that can actually get us there?
The material we're diving into today uses this really cool analogy to illustrate this shift. It's the escalator versus the staircase.
Ah, yeah, I love this one. It's so visual. So imagine you're at the bottom looking up at these two ways to reach the top. You got the staircase right with its individual steps, each one a clear marker of progress, but it requires constant effort, energy every single step.
And it's like, life rarely gives you a perfectly smooth climb up those stairs. There are always going to be obstacles, moments where you trip or get tired distractions that throw you off course.
Exactly. And when that happens, you miss a step. Maybe you even fall back a few. It's easy to feel like you failed. The whole climb starts to feel daunting. You lose motivation.
Okay, so that's the staircase. Now what about the escalator?
The escalator is a totally different story. Think about it. You put in the effort to build it to get it moving, but once it's running, it effortlessly carries you upward, no matter what little setbacks you might encounter.
So that's the power of a system. It's consistent progress regardless of those minor bumps in the road.
Right. It's like you've set up this automatic system that works for you even when you're not actively focused on it.
Okay, I'm getting this analogy, but let's get a little more concrete. What do we actually mean when we talk about system versus goal?
Sure. So let's say your goal is to write a novel.
Ambitious goal.
It is. And it can feel really overwhelming just thinking about that huge task of finishing an entire book.
Right. Where do you even begin?
Exactly. But what if instead of obsessing over that end product, you focused on the process of becoming a writer? That's where the system comes in.
Okay, I'm listening.
So your system might involve things like setting aside a specific time each day for writing, even if it's just for 15 minutes. It could mean joining a writing group for feedback and support, creating a dedicated space where you can focus without distractions.
So it's like breaking down that big, hairy, audacious goal of writing a novel into smaller, manageable actions that you do consistently.
Exactly. It's about establishing those habits, those routines that ultimately form the backbone of your writing practice.
It's not about forcing yourself to churn out pages upon pages. It's about showing up, consistently nurturing that identity of a writer.
You become someone who writes rather than someone who is trying to write a novel. And that subtle shift can make all the difference.
This reminds me of a quote I came across recently. It said, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems."
Ooh, that's a good one. It really highlights how crucial it is to build that solid foundation, those systems that support you no matter what you're trying to achieve.
Exactly. Because without that foundation, without those systems in place, it's so easy to get derailed by those inevitable setbacks and challenges that life throws our way.
It's like trying to build a house on sand. It might look good at first, but the first strong wind comes along and the whole thing crumbles. So we got to focus on building those strong foundations, those systems, those escalators that can help us weather any storm.
I'm totally on board with this escalator idea, but let's unpack why systems are so effective, beyond just that visual of the smooth ride up.
Well, one of the key advantages that really stands out is resilience. Systems are designed to accommodate those setbacks, those inevitable bumps in the road that can totally derail us when we're solely focused on goals.
Okay, so let's say my goal is to lose weight, but then I miss a couple of workouts, or I have a not-so-healthy meal. It's so easy to feel like a failure, just give up altogether, right?
Right. It's like you've fallen off the wagon and you can't seem to climb back on. But with a system, those slip-ups are just part of the process. You have a framework to get back on track without spiraling into self-criticism and guilt.
So instead of viewing those slip-ups as failures, you see them as learning experiences.
Exactly. It's about progress, not perfection. It's about understanding that you're human, you're going to make mistakes, but the important thing is to have that system in place to help you get back on track.
I love that.
Yeah.
And I think this ties into another really crucial aspect of systems. They encourage a shift in identity.
Yes, this is huge. Instead of striving to achieve a specific outcome, you start to embody the identity associated with that outcome. So instead of aiming to run a marathon, you see yourself as a runner. Instead of trying to write a novel, you become a writer.
So it's less about checking off a box and more about integrating those actions into your sense of self. You're not just doing something, you're being someone.
Exactly. And that shift can be incredibly powerful in fueling motivation and commitment because it's no longer about achieving a goal, it's about becoming the kind of person who does those things naturally.
And this leads to another key advantage of systems, the power of compound growth.
Ah, yes, the magic of compounding. We often underestimate the remarkable impact of small, consistent actions accumulated over time. It's easy to get caught up in seeking those instant results, but systems teach us the value of patience and the power of consistency.
It's like planting a seed.
Hmm.
You don't see the growth happening beneath the surface. But with consistent watering and care, it eventually blossoms into something remarkable.
That's a perfect analogy. The same principle applies to building skills, nurturing relationships, advancing your career. Those small, consistent efforts, when sustained over time, can yield extraordinary results. It's about trusting the process and allowing those seemingly insignificant actions to compound into something truly remarkable.
This makes me think about another benefit of systems. They tend to make the journey more enjoyable.
Absolutely. Because instead of fixating on the pressure of the end goal, you start to find satisfaction in the process itself. You're not just grinding it out, you're actually enjoying the ride.
So instead of dreading those daily workouts, you start to relish the feeling of getting stronger, the endorphin rush after a good session. Instead of feeling overwhelmed by that blank page, you savor the creative flow of writing, even if it's just for a short period each day.
Exactly. The focus shifts from enduring the journey to savoring it, and that makes the whole process so much more sustainable in the long run.
You're not white-knuckling your way to the finish line. You're actually enjoying the process of getting there, and that's where things get really interesting. This concept of systems, it extends far beyond just personal goals like fitness or writing. It can be applied to virtually any area of your life.
The possibilities are truly boundless. Think about your career. Instead of fixating on that coveted promotion, imagine building a system of continuous learning, networking, skill development. You're not just chasing a specific outcome, you're creating a foundation for broader career growth.
It's like you're building your own internal system for success. You're not waiting for opportunities to come to you. You're proactively creating them.
Exactly. And the same principle applies to relationships. Instead of setting a vague goal like spend more time with loved ones, imagine designing a system of regular check-ins, shared activities, dedicated time for meaningful conversations.
So you're shifting the focus from the quantity of time to the quality of those interactions.
Right. You're nurturing those connections consistently, ensuring that those relationships flourish over time.
You're not just hoping for strong relationships, you're actively cultivating them through consistent actions and meaningful interactions.
And this brings us to another fascinating application, creativity. We often perceive creativity as this elusive force that strikes when it pleases. But what if we approached it through a system?
I love that. So instead of waiting for inspiration to hit, you're creating the conditions for it to emerge.
Exactly. Whether it's writing, painting, playing music, or any other creative pursuit, dedicate a set amount of time each day to simply engage in the process. Even if you don't feel particularly inspired, just show up and do the work.
So you're building that consistency, that routine that allows creativity to flow more freely.
Right. Even if you only manage to write a few sentences or sketch a rough outline, that consistent practice can lead to surprising breakthroughs and eventually to those larger creative projects you've always envisioned.
What's fascinating here is that this system-based thinking, it transcends individual goals and aspirations. It's a powerful framework for creating sustainable growth and achieving long-term success in any area of life.
It's about shifting from chasing those fleeting milestones to building a framework that consistently propels you forward.
It's about recognizing that the real power lies not in reaching the top of the staircase, but in creating an escalator that effortlessly and consistently carries you upward towards a future filled with possibilities.
And that brings us to a crucial question. This escalator approach, it requires a different mindset, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
Yeah.
We're so conditioned to seek those quick wins, those visible markers of progress that the staircase represents. But building a robust system, it requires patience, a willingness to delay gratification, and the understanding that results might not be immediately apparent.
It's about recognizing that the journey matters just as much as the destination, if not more. It's about embracing the process, knowing that there will be setbacks along the way, and understanding that those setbacks are not failures, but opportunities to learn and refine your system.
It's so tempting to get caught up in that staircase mentality, looking for those quick wins and feeling deflated when we stumble.
Yeah.
But the escalator reminds us that consistent progress is key.
And that progress might not always be linear. There will be plateaus. There will be moments when it feels like you're not moving forward at all. But those are simply part of the process.
It's about trusting that the system is working, even when you can't see the immediate results. It's about believing that those small, consistent actions are quietly compounding in the background, laying the foundation for something truly remarkable. But how do we cultivate that mindset? How do we shift from that desire for instant gratification to the patience and discipline required to build and maintain a system? Especially when we're surrounded by messages screaming for instant results.
Well, I think it starts with recognizing that progress isn't always linear and embracing the fact that there will be setbacks along the way. It's about reframing those setbacks as valuable data points, opportunities to learn and refine your system.
It's about understanding that each obstacle you overcome makes your escalator even stronger and more resilient.
Exactly. And it's about celebrating those small wins along the way. Did you manage to stick to your writing schedule for a whole week? That's a win. Did you finally push through that creative block? Another win. Those small victories might seem insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but they're the building blocks of long-term success.
They're the fuel that keeps you going when the journey feels long and the destination seems far away.
Exactly. It's about recognizing and appreciating those incremental steps forward, those small victories that contribute to the bigger picture. And it's about remembering that your system is not static. It's a dynamic process that requires constant monitoring and adjustment.
So it's not about setting it and forgetting it.
Right. You need to be paying attention to what's working, what's not working, and be willing to make changes as needed.
It's about actively engaging with the process, experimenting, iterating, and constantly refining your system based on the feedback you're receiving.
It's like fine-tuning a musical instrument. You listen carefully to the sound it's producing and make subtle adjustments until you achieve the desired harmony.
So in a sense, building a system is an ongoing creative process.
Absolutely. It's about using your creativity and problem-solving skills to design a framework that truly supports your growth and helps you reach your full potential. And this is where the true power of this approach lies.
It's about empowering yourself to take control of your own growth and create a path that leads you towards the outcomes you desire. It's about recognizing that you have the agency to design a life that is fulfilling, meaningful, and aligned with your deepest aspirations.
It's about moving from a feeling of being at the mercy of circumstances to becoming the architect of your own destiny. It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive one.
This conversation has been so enlightening. It's making me reconsider my approach to so many areas of my life. But as we move forward, it's important to address another crucial element. Systems are not about achieving perfection. They're about progress.
That's an important point. Striving for perfection can be paralyzing. It can prevent us from taking action and experimenting. But embracing the idea of progress liberates us. It allows us to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
It's about shifting our focus from the fear of failure to the excitement of exploration and growth. It's about recognizing that each step, each iteration brings us closer to building a system that truly works for us.
So we've been talking about this idea of building systems, this concept of the escalator that can effortlessly carry us toward our goals. But let's be real. We live in a world that's obsessed with instant gratification.
It's true. Everywhere you look, there's a promise of quick fixes and overnight success. Lose 10 pounds in 5 days, learn a language in a week, become a millionaire by next month. It's hard not to get caught up in that.
It is. And that mentality, that constant need for instant results, it can actually sabotage our efforts to create lasting change. It's like choosing the staircase because you see those first few steps and you think, oh, this will be easy, I'll be at the top in no time. But then the fatigue sets in, obstacles pop up, and suddenly the staircase isn't so appealing anymore.
Right. It's like that initial burst of motivation fades and you're feeling exhausted and discouraged.
Exactly. Building a system, it's more like constructing that escalator. It requires upfront effort patience. You might not see those dazzling results right away.
It's not about those flashy overnight transformation. It's about the steady, consistent work that happens behind the scenes. I love that analogy of the seed. You plant it, you nurture it consistently, and eventually it breaks through the surface and blossoms into something beautiful.
Exactly. The key is to shift our focus from the outcome to the process. Instead of obsessing over the number on the scale, enjoy the feeling of getting stronger with each workout. Instead of fixating on publishing that book, savor the creative flow of writing each day.
And that's what makes systems so sustainable. You're not forcing yourself to endure the process. You're genuinely enjoying it.
Right. You're not white-knuckling your way to the finish line. You're actually enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference in terms of staying motivated and committed over the long haul.
This conversation has been so eye-opening, it's making me think about all the areas of my life where I could benefit from a more systems-based approach. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to address one more thing. Systems are not about achieving perfection. They're about progress.
That's such an important point. Striving for perfection can be paralyzing. It can prevent us from taking action and experimenting. But embracing the idea of progress, it liberates us. It allows us to make mistakes, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
It's about shifting our focus from the fear of failure to the excitement of exploration and growth.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that each step, each iteration brings us closer to building a system that truly works for us.
So how do we make this practical? How do we actually start building these systems in our own lives?
Let's give our listeners some tangible takeaways.
Yeah.
What are some practical steps they can take to actually design and implement these personal escalators in their own lives?
Let's empower them to start building those systems today.
The first step is to pinpoint those areas where you've been stuck in that staircase mentality. Always striving for those quick wins, but ultimately losing steam along the way.
So we're talking about those goals that just never seem to stick, those areas where we've been spinning our wheels without making any real progress.
Right. Ask yourself, could a system-based approach help me create more sustainable progress in this area?
Once you've identified those areas, it's time to get creative. What habits, routines, or structures could form the foundation of your escalator?
And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to systems. What works for one person might not work for another. It's all about finding what works best for you.
So experimentation is key.
Absolutely. Your initial system might need some tweaking along the way. That's totally normal. The beauty of this approach is that it's adaptable. You can refine and adapt as you learn and grow.
It's like we're building a prototype, testing it out, seeing what works, and then making adjustments as needed.
Exactly. It's about embracing that journey of continuous improvement, viewing setbacks not as failures, but as valuable feedback that helps us make our escalators even stronger.
I love that. And here's another crucial tip.
Yeah.
Track your progress. Whether it's noting the number of workouts completed, the pages you've written, or any other metric that's relevant to your system, tracking can be incredibly helpful.
It is. It helps you visualize your progress and stay motivated. It provides that tangible evidence that your system is working even when those big results seem slow to materialize.
It's like seeing those small wins adding up over time.
Exactly. And speaking of small wins, don't forget to celebrate them. Each workout completed, each page written, each step toward your goals is a victory worth acknowledging. And as you embark on this journey, keep in mind that building a system is an act of empowerment. It's about taking control of your own growth and shaping a future that aligns with your deepest desires.
It's about moving from feeling like you're at the mercy of circumstances to becoming the architect of your own destiny.
It's about shifting from a reactive mindset to a proactive one.
We hope this deep dive has provided you with a fresh perspective and the tools to create lasting positive change in your life. Remember, it's not about reaching the top of the staircase. It's about building an escalator that effortlessly and consistently carries you upward toward a future brimming with possibilities.
And that future is waiting for you to start building.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Deep Thoughts Podcast. I hope you found insights and inspiration to take with you on your journey of self-growth. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And don't forget to follow us on social media to stay updated on new releases and exclusive content. See you next time, where we'll continue to help you grow and explore your full potential.